One of the hardest things that a writer has to do is cut scenes from their story that they really love. In this video, I share with you my tried and true quick test for deciding which darlings to keep and which ones to kill. A lot of times in the drafting phase, we might get an idea for something, a plot point, a character, a piece of dialogue that at the time we think is going to be absolutely essential to the plot. It's going to set up epicness to the 9th degree. Then somewhere along the way, as we get further into the drafting process, the story changes. The characters dictate a new direction, we come up with bigger and better epicness, or we simply forget about that thing that was going to be absolutely essential and now it's, well, not so essential. But as writers, we tend to fall in love with our non-essential plot points and character and dialogue. I know I do. And it can often be hard for us to determine what's essential to the story and what's not. We have what I'm going to call plot blindness. And that's where I hope my new revision hack will come in handy. Think of it as sort of a prescription eyewear for plot blindness. Here's how I came up with it. I was having lunch with a screenwriter friend of mine the other day, and she was telling me all about this screenplay she was working on. She said she was having trouble deciding whether or not to use voiceover for her main character. She said she wrote 2 versions of the screenplay, one with voiceover and then one without. Wow, I said, sounds like a lot of work going through and taking out all of that voiceover. To which she said, nah, it pretty much lifted right out. I thought about that for a moment, and that's when this hack came to me. If it lifts right out, I said to her, with barely any rewriting effort on your part, then it probably didn't need to be there in the first place, right? She agreed, and the matter was solved. Voila! I give you my favorite new revision hack, the lift-out test. It's very simple. If something lifts out of your story with little or minimal rewriting effort, then it probably didn't need to be there to begin with. In other words, if you can remove it from your story and it doesn't leave behind a bottomless plot vortex of complications, it wasn't an essential part of the story. A good, well-structured story is a complex, interconnected network of cause and effect. This affects this, which changes this, which leads to this, which ultimately ties together with this at the end. If something isn't an integral part of that complex network, you can usually tell as soon as you try to delete it, and nothing in the story changes. The lift-out test works for pretty much any aspect of your story. Scenes, chapters, subplots, side characters, chunks of dialogue, you name it. If you can lift it out of your story, and the rest of the plot and/or scene doesn't crumble around it or require massive rewriting, it means it wasn't that connected to the story in the first place, or the story wasn't dependent on it, and it can probably just go. So as you tackle your next revision, trying to decide what stays and what goes, start putting stuff through the lift-out tests. If it lifts right out, then say your tearful goodbyes and be comforted in knowing that your story will be stronger without it. If you found this tip helpful, please thumbs up this video and don't forget to subscribe. I will see you next time, writers. Until then, happy writing.